All of this costs money.
Mm-hmm. Sure
It,
does.
it ain't free.
Right.
So let's get into the cost of these long-term care facilities or events. I think Genworth has got, and folks, and I'll leave a link on the show notes to this. Genworth got a nice website, Cost of Care.
Mm-hmm.
Let me share that, and we'll give you an idea of these costs.
What we're looking at here, these are median costs of care, so middle of the road. There's certainly going to be some higher, some lower, but I think it is important to know, like depending on where you are in the country, these costs are going to vary, and sometimes it's a pretty big range. So
Well,
you want to
let's look at this. Here's North Carolina, God's country, I say. And they break it down for in-home care. These are monthly costs, $53.39. However, there's a footnote. This is not 24-hour
right part
for
time.
in-home care. So this is the median cost that people are spending. And it's probably, several hours a day.
So that's 44 hours per week, Keith, is how they calculate that home care. And then they say, okay, if you're receiving 44 hours of care per week at home, this is how much it would be per month,
Okay?
middle of the road. And then
Then we
assisted
get,
living.
then we get assisted living, $57.69 a month.
And Keith, what I think is important here for the assisted living, this is a base rate. All right. So assisted livings, they have a base rate, which basically means to get in the door, this is how much we charge you. But if you need a different level of care, and a lot of times assisted livings have like 3 levels of care, we're going to charge you more for those levels of care. So
Right.
that's a base rate. So it's very reasonable to expect that to be maybe
That'd be
a couple
higher
thousand
than
dollars
this.
more. Right. It
Yep,
could be
yep.
$2,000 more depending on the level of care that's needed.
This is like those advertisement for cars. And it looks very attractive,
Mm-hmm.
but when you get in there, this doesn't come with wheels if you wanted
Right.
that. So
Right.
you're exactly right. It's going to be more than that for the ancillary. Then we get to the nursing home. Semi-private, $8,300 a month. Private room, $91.25. And again, that cost is probably going to be more
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to need some other services. But gee whiz, you're talking about well over $100,000 a year
Not
for
chump
nursing
change.
homes.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
That's North Carolina.
Let's look at the Buckeye State. Let's look at Columbus.
Is that? I'm trying. I don't know my geography.
Yep, there you go. Yep, right there.
Okay.
Yeah, if you click on Columbus, right in the middle. Mm-hmm.
All right. Columbus, Ohio. Is that right? 91.25. They're very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you live let's go to California.
I was going to say, if you live on the East Coast or even the West Coast, you're going to see higher prices.
Yeah, California, $13,000 for nursing home, $62.50 for home health care. So folks, you can play with this too. Genworth, cost of care, find your own state, check it out.
And I think another thing to consider there too, Keith, with that cost of care study is you can actually see, okay, well, what about in 20 years? Because as we're planning for care,
yeah.
we're likely not going to need care right now. So we're looking to the future. So if I'm 55, okay, I'm planning now, but hopefully I don't need care until I'm in my 80s. So if this is going to be, 30 years, 25 years, well, let's take that ticker and we can move it across the line.
Yeah. I should have done that. I should have done that.
And so, and what it does, it actually defaults to 3%, but you can change it to 4%, to 5% inflation. And just to let people know, historically, what we've seen as far as inflation and LTC costs, about 3%, 4%, 5%, 3 to 5%. But the last several years, because of COVID, Keith, we've seen them skyrocket, especially in home care costs. Mm-hmm. We've even seen home care costs grow 10% in a year. Now, a lot of people wanting to be at home, so they're charging for that, right? We don't have a high supply of caregivers and we've got a high demand. So they got to charge for that. There's a premium for that. Now, what do I anticipate in the future, over the next 20 years? I think it'll likely level out and be probably between 3 and 5%. So if we had just assumed middle of the road 4%, that's probably reasonable.
Well, here's an example. In 1989, you weren't even born then, but
oh, I was. I'm older than you think, Keith.
that was my first year in the financial services industry, January of '89. And long-term care, I was presenting it to the clients. The average cost was like $3,000, a little over $3,000 a month for a nursing home. Fast forward, it's more than tripled in that time period. And just like you said, with the inflation rate and COVID bumping everything up. So very, very costly. If you like what you're seeing so far, check out this next video. Subscribe to the channel. Lord willing, we'll see you next time.